Hey, what up, y'all? What up? What up? I am Lou. I'm actually recording today on my workstation. So it's not the best setup. It's a HD webcam that I have. So again, it's not a 4K cinema camera. So it's quality is okay. As for mic, I'm using the Blue Yeti mic. Again, not the best mic, but I think it'll get the job done. In today's in today's video, we're gonna talk about deploying a Python Flask application to Heroku. Let's get started. Alright guys, before we get started, if you give me a like, give me a follow, man, I'll appreciate it, man. Also keep in mind, we have live streams on Friday, 9 p.m. Central, Drinking with Lou. We'll be drinking, I'll be tasting new tequilas, and on top of that, we'll be talking code. So if you have any code for me to review, you want some help, that's the time to join. Let's get started, guys. So the project that I'm going to be using, it's actually a project that I worked on my live stream on Friday. So again, I have a live stream every Friday, Drinking with Lou. That's what it is. Taste new tequilas, and we solve problems. And one of my followers asked about if we could build a Flask application and ultimately connect to a Postgres database and pretty much do some data scraping from the IMDb website and load that data. And then there's some other stuff we're doing. You know, we're doing like a table backup, pretty much taking a snapshot of the data, and then we actually put like a top 10 query to retrieve back the top 10 movies. Either way, the purpose of this is not necessarily to review the code or how we did it. Again, you can look at the live stream if you're interested in how that was done. The whole purpose here is to see how do we deploy this to Heroku. So I created a application, but I did want to show you this is the application that we're going to be utilizing, right? Which is number one. Okay, there's two things that you need to do first, and let me make my screen bigger. All right, that's big enough. So there's two things that needs to occur. Number one, make sure that the unicorn package is included in your requirements file. That's number one. Initially, I did not have that in my file because as we were developing this and the live stream and I was running it on my machine, there was no need for it, right? So, but now since we're going to deploy it to a server, it is needed. So make sure that this is included in your requirements file. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to have to create this prod file, PROC file, okay? Inside this file, you're going to specify web, unicorn. Unicorn, again, kind of goes that. This is one of the reasons why we need to install this. If you're not familiar with unicorn, go ahead and just kind of Google it. But ultimately, it kind of relates to the your whiskey file for pretty much communicating with the server and your Python application. I'm not going to go too detailed into it, but it's kind of like the middleman for that aspect of it, right? So you do need this prod file, PRC file, and you're going to specify web, unicorn, which again relates to that file. And then we need to specify, in my case, I called it the whiskey .py. It may be called something different in your file, but ultimately this is the starting point of the app. So again, if I go to it, let's take a look at it. This is where it ultimately starts the application, right? I'm calling my app and I'm running it and I'm specifying the port, and of course debug equal false. That's what this guy is. So if this file that you have is actually called something else, maybe it's called run.py, that's what this is going to be. This is going to be run. It all depends on what you named your file. All right. So from here, we're running the app. Again, I called it app. That's where this comes in. Again, if I were to call this web app, for example, like my file, maybe I'll call it app 2, right? This would be app 2. Ultimately, what it means is this would be app 2, this would be app 2, this would be app 2 as well. So it all depends on how you named it. But in my case, I named it app. So that's kind of how, that's how you're going to determine what that value should be. So besides that, as long as you have your again, this is a Python Flask application. As long as you have that in order, which we do, like working, the only thing that I added was the unicorn package and then this file. That's it. Once I added everything, we're good. We're good to go ahead and deploy it. And let me go ahead and do that. So let me go to my Heroku. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that should be good enough. So I have this one that I was testing on. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. We're going to do everything from scratch. So let me go to settings. We're going to delete. Boom, deleted. Your session has expired. Oh, I need to re-authenticate. Okay, but it deleted the app. Cool. All right. So one thing that I actually forgot as well, and I should have mentioned this. You're going to need the Heroku command line interface. All right. So just type in Heroku CLI. Let's see. There it goes. So I'm using my workstation happens to be a Linux machine. So this is kind of what I ran to kind of get it set up. Once you get it installed, right? So once the Heroku CLI is installed, what should happen is if you go to your terminal, and you should be able to just type in Heroku. Then of course it finds it because it's been installed. If you don't get a message similar to what I have, then ultimately means it's not installed, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. In my case, I have it installed, but again, go ahead and get it installed. Once you have it installed, then you should be good. Then we could get started. What I'm going to end up doing first is I'm going to do Heroku Create, and I'm going to create an app. So let's say my app is called Python Flask, but you got to give it a unique name, because if it's not unique, then of course it's not going to take it. So I'm going to call it Python Flask. I am Lou 01, right? I'm assuming that should be unique anyways. Let's get that created. All right, cool. Now that it's been created, if I go back to now you could create it through here, but I like doing it through the command line interface. So because we need to have that installed anyways, we're going to need it to deploy it. It's easier that way. So I would recommend as you install it, just go ahead and create it. You can tell when I refresh, now we see the app here. Now again, keep in mind this app, think of it, all it is a container in Heroku. It's a container that's empty, it doesn't have anything installed, nothing's running, everything's off, right? It doesn't even know what kind of app we're dealing with. Nothing has been configured. Nothing's going on here. All right, cool. So now I'm gonna go to my project. So I'm inside the folder. This is where I have that project, the one that I was just showing you right now in Visual Studio Code. So this project here is pretty much, I'm inside the folder. And let me make sure, yep, so I have everything in here. In my case, I'm actually deploying my .env file as well. I do not have a .get ignore file in here, so that will get deployed as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you do have any environment variables, it's up to you if you want to include it as you push it out. If not, then of course your .get ignore file will exclude that. But I don't have a .get ignore file here, so it's going to push it over. And for this purpose, it's fine. So now that we're ready, I'm in my project. One thing I do want to I want you to be keep in mind, if you happen to have let's just look at one of their examples because I want to just show you something. Let's go to deploy. And we scroll down. After you create your command line interface, go ahead and run Heroku Login. And what's going to happen is it's actually going to open up in the browser, and it's going to ask you to log in. So as you log in, it pretty much is going to save your credentials to your PC. So from a command line interface, you will be able to connect automatically without providing credentials. So that's number one. You're going to have to run this. I already have this ran, which is why I don't need to run it. It will connect to my app automatically, like my instance as well. But because if you just installed, then there you go. There's a link to get to it as well. But go ahead and install it. Once you install it, go ahead and run this in your terminal or your command line. Once you have that, you have the option to create a new project. Most likely, though, you're probably going to have already a project that exists. Like you already have the code, you built it and you tested it on your local machine. So there's no need to create a new repo. You already have a project. Like you don't need to create a new one to get things initiated. Ultimately, you would just go into your application that you have already. So for example, in my case, I already have one. All I would have to do here is copy this bottom piece where it says existing repos. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. Again, you need the Heroku command line interface in order for this to work. So assuming that you have it installed, I'm gonna paste it. And then now I'm gonna run it. Cool. So what it did, end up setting this as a repo that I'm going to push to once I get ready to deploy my code. So now that I have that set, only thing that's left to do is go ahead and push it. Man, let's go ahead and do let me make sure there's nothing, everything's up to date. Yep, everything's clean. I'm going to do a git push Heroku master. Okay, so normally again, GitLab, GitHub, you would do git push origin master. In this case, you would do git push Heroku master. As you could, I don't know if you notice, but what it's doing, let me kind of scroll back up. It's actually starting the build process automatically. It detected I had Python. Now, we did skip one step, and that's fine. And if you skip this step, what happens is it'll use I don't want to say the latest version of Python, but I think it's like the latest stable version of Python, which is Python 3.10.4. So it's using that version. If you want to specify your Python version, then what you would have to do is, let's see, it doesn't show here, but you would have to make a let me see. So you're gonna have to create a file that's called runtime.txt. Inside this file, you're gonna specify the version of Python you want Heroku to pretty much install, right, to utilize. So I didn't do that in my case. So by default, it installed 3.10, and I'm fine with that, right? But again, just keep that in mind. If you want to specify one, maybe you have packages that only work on 3.8, doesn't work on 3.9 and 3.10, then that's what you would have to do. Create that file, save the version, so when you deploy it, that's what it's going to do. So let's kind of look, let's see what it ended up doing. It installs SQLite by default. Again, we're not going to use that, but nevertheless, it did. And then it automatically started installing all of my files, my requirement files. So it pretty much started installing everything. So far, nothing failed. Everything seems to be successful. Everything got installed successful. Here goes that procedural file. That seems to be fine. No errors. Verified deployed. Everything got deployed. Everything looks good based on what I could tell. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to refresh. Very strange. What the hell's going on here? So very strange. It's just taking a long ass time, which is very, very odd. Not sure why. I don't know if it's... Yeah, I don't know. It's very odd. Let's go back to our main section. They're having some kind of issues. Item cannot be modified. I'm not even trying to modify it. Alright, so let's go to our app. Doesn't even show nothing under overview. Resources. Deployed. Activity. So it just shows build successful. Everything seems fine. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna click on open app. So here's the thing. This is actually good, even though it's getting me a 404 error. This is because I don't technically have a home page on this app that we built. So what I do have is I need to go to the IMDb. Then I believe we called it top 250 movies. Boom, there you go. Disconnected. And then, there's a query if I do get top 10. Boom, there you go. Got my data back. So everything's working. Everything working fine. It was actually pretty easy when you think about it. All we had to do was add the unicorn package into our requirements file. We needed to add the prod file. PROC file with the specifications of unicorn. This is pretty much our starting file, which is this guy. Again, you call it something different, put whatever that name is, and then of course the app object, which in my case is this guy. Again, if you call that something else, then this would be that, whatever that is. That's it, guys. That's literally all we did. After that, I just deployed, and as you saw, in order for me to deploy the app, it was literally as easy as go into my current project that I have locally. Then I pretty much just activated this app, this git repo. I added it to that project, which is what happened here. And then after that, I just pushed it on over, like in the other project, git push Heroku master. That's all I did. And as I did that, it pushes the code over to this repo, and then it started to build my application. And everything built. It detected my Python, that I did not have a Python version, so it installed the latest version. If you want a specific version, again, you're gonna have to create a runtime text file and then specify the version that you want it to install. And then besides that, it installed all of your packages, and that's it, guys. It's literally that simple. I mean, it really is. And then everything should be running. I'm using, again, the free version for testing. You could easily expand if you want, more better resources, things of that nature. But for at least to kind of show y'all, if you want other features, there are features that you would have to upgrade, right? So for example, I believe domain configuration is free, but your SSL certifications you would have to pay to upgrade to that. You could configure your build pack. So the build pack is kind of what happened automatically by default, which is this process here. But you could tweak it and modify that. Either way, as you saw, this is pretty straightforward. It worked like a charm. I gotta say, guys, it was not hard at all, man. It was. So I use another platform called Python Anywhere, and that platform is supposed to be designed strictly for Python. Python only deployments. It's supposed to be very easy. We just drop your file and you're good to go. And it does kind of work that way to some degree. There's a few apps that had to kind of tinker with it, but there's others that just kind of work like the way it said, right? I was able to drop my files, and it worked. It was good to go. It made it very easy to redirect. Now, it's not free, of course. You do have to pay, but you don't pay a lot, like $5 a month. I do think this process is a lot easier in my mind. Now, the only, I don't want to call it downfall, but the only, I think it's easier and quicker, but there are a few additional steps you have to do, like the Heroku command line interface. If you're not trying to install that, or maybe you bounce around and you're always using different equipment, maybe that's not ideal in those cases, because then you got to be installing the command line interface, right? So something like Python Anywhere may work slightly better for that. But I do like it. It worked very well. It was easy to deploy, pretty straightforward. And hopefully this video helps out. Again, guys, there'll be more videos coming out. Give me a like, give me a follow. Again, the quality, the sound is not the best. I'm actually recording from my workstation. I have equipment, but it's not like my just kind of show y'all, right? I know some of y'all may have been wanting to know, but let me show y'all real quick. So over there, kind of hard to see, but that other that setup, that's my streaming setup. I have my 4K camera. I have 3 monitors, my lights. You'll see the panels in the back. I have my speakers, things of that nature. I just decided today to record from my workstation, and I'll make a video one day of showing like my equipment a little bit better. More so because I already had everything set up. I already had the Heroku and everything else set up, so it would have been a lot quicker just to kind of get it recorded here. But I know I'm giving up better quality footage, and of course the mic probably sounds like crap. It may be good enough, but the other one sounds better. At least in my opinion, it sounds better anyways. Hopefully y'all like it. Give me a follow again, guys. We'll be live on Friday, Drinking with Lou. I'm gonna be live on Tuesdays as well. So at 8 p.m. Central on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays 8 p.m. Central is gonna be my session of Hanging with Lou. Then on Fridays, it will be Drinking with Lou from 9 p.m. Friday nights. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps. Peace.